Dominant half by FPX on DRX's map pick.
9-3 curse isn't real. Again, no value found from a quite decent investment.
Oh, they're sticking! There's no way!
They got it!
They dealt with every layer thrown their way! The challenge is there, they're gonna swing right into it. They both fall! DRX has done it! They usurp the throne! Take down FPX and advance!
So let's pretend I throw you in a 10 by 10 box, right? And I decide to fill it with a breach stun, raise paint shells, fade seas, Astra suck, and people are spamming you with their guns. Do you think you'd be able to survive or even like shoot back? Probably not. No. That's what the current Haven meta looks like. People love fighting for this A lobby control. Lobby control on Haven is really important for a couple of reasons. One, on defense, if you can gain lobby control, this allows you to keep one person planted in short or long, and they could just hold and gather information all on their own while your other team decides to rotate on the other half of the map. So like you'll see some teams, they'll put the chamber here on A long, they'll throw like a fade haunt plus like maybe a breach stun, and they'll smoke this off, and they'll be like, okay, nobody's pushed through lobby. My teammates can all go and stack this half of the map, right? They can go stack into B, C, garage, whatever they want, right? But on attackers, if you can successfully get this control, let's say for example, you push the chamber back, this forces the enemy team to bring somebody over to try and rotate and help this chamber out. Because by doing so, right, like you'll see like a smoke here plus like a prowler, right? So if the chamber is long or short, he gets pushed back, and then a teammate has to come help him out because you could be using these smokes, right? The attacking team could be using these. They could walk up on the smoke, they could walk behind the prowler, and it thins out the defense, right? It allows you to do whatever you want. So lobby control is really important. Now this Viper kind of counters what's going on, right? Say for example, they stun, they suck, nade, whatever, nuke it, they nuke A lobby, and you just can't fight for it anymore. But the Viper wall the teams are doing on attack, or I should say FPX are doing on attack, is that they will wall sort of like this, and it'll cut across site like this, and cut like this, and cut all the way through. It's a little more to the left, but you get the point. Now, what this wall does is that if you ever want to come back to A, you can decide, yo, let's put the wall up, let's use like one prowler down short or a Roomba or something, and we'll clear it out. Now, you know how like earlier in the early days of Valorant, they had like, you know, ciphers would default their cage here on long. This was good because it denied a lot of information from teams that were trying to peek long, right? You don't know if they walked into short or whatnot, right? But what this Viper wall does is that it's a constant denial information, right? It's like a permanent cipher cage. You could just turn on and turn off whenever you want. But not only that, it's a good CT smoke for you know, CT, and it cuts, like I said, it cuts like this. There's even a little pocket here, so your graffiti player could even tuck in it and hide and like swing out when your team is taking contact and all that, right? It's a really good wall. Now, it kind of upset me that people were bashing on the Viper on Haven, because I think it's a pretty good pick. I think it's actually a perfect counter to this A lobby massacre that we're seeing constantly teams do, right? But I think the issue came in is on their post plants, right? They ended up choking a 9-3 lead. They got the 9 on defense, and you know, they lost on offense. Now we're gonna go through a lot of their rounds, talk about their post plants, what they could have done better. And as a matter of fact, FPX isn't the first team to pull out this Viper on Haven. And as a matter of fact, it was actually Team Liquid, and there might even be some teams before them that pulled it off. But back in like 2021, back in one of the Reykjavik tournaments, they pulled out the Viper, and I'm going to show you a couple clips on how they used it and how it actually worked out for them, and how I think FPX, if they decide to keep running this comp, or if anyone decides to run it, how they could do it better. So before we go to defense, before we go to offense, we're going to talk about defense. So like I mentioned, this Viper is also really good at anchoring your sights, right? She has smokes for across the map. She has this big one way that you're going to see on garage. She can smoke B, short, and long. And her mollies are really strong, right? So like your sight hits are going to be better. Retake's a bit weaker because you don't have the breach, but she's still really good, right? Now, what FPX decided to do is they have 3 stacked over towards A. Like I mentioned, they're fighting for lobby control. They're getting that information, right? So DRX turret for mid. This is a really good turret. Spots garage, spots the walk down. Now, what is it? DRX, they decide to smoke, but they didn't really send any utility, right? They didn't really use anything to push anybody off or create any form of pressure. So as you can see, FPX, they're either not worried about it, or they just decide to play full retake A altogether, which is fine, right? So Sova, he's gonna go up into heaven, right? And now because DRX didn't really create a lot of pressure towards A, or they didn't really poke and prod their way in here, right? They don't really know that no one's like in this area. They're gonna end up running into like a 3 or 4 stack over towards this half of the map. Now, Fade Prowler goes out, Jet Smoke goes in. Now, here's where that one way comes into effect, right? Even if even if this chamber was an Omen, right? Let's just say hypothetically that chamber was posted up on long because they got long control or lobby control, or posted up short, right? And he was holding all this map control, right? And let's say that everyone else decided to rotate back. Let's say Omen is here and like Viper's here, or really anyone. It could be Sova, it could be anybody, right? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that the chamber op was here. It doesn't matter. This site hold is just too strong. This Viper's one way is just so big that, yeah, Jet's able to get out of the choke point, but it just isolates the rest of her teammates where it takes too long to get out of the choke effectively, and you just end up dying, right? So I'm going to rewind this a little bit, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So Chamber's up on platform. He's opping people. I think even, what is it? We saw some Viper mollies coming in there too. You just can't come out of the choke point. Sugetsu gets one. You can see Fade's like stuck behind she's stuck behind the smoke. She can't come out. She gets off because, you know, Chamber TP'd out and they run back in, and there's just a massacre on this site. But again, site holds are really strong. Retakes kind of suck, but she's really good at re-clearing like a lobby and fighting for this control. Now, that was a really good side hold. Let's go watch another round on defense. All right, so we're gonna run through this round a little bit quicker, but notice how I mentioned how this A lobby control is really important. As long as you have the chamber here and the strip is alive, actually, they could still go stack the other half of the map, right? But again, DRX, again, don't do that great of a job of creating A pressure, right? So they're deciding they're gonna, unfortunately, gonna run into the stack again, right? But again, just look at how strong this side hold is. Omen, Viper, right? Viper ends up changing up her smoke to put it towards the entrance of C, but also this smoke, you also see this from Astra's too. If teams play Astra on Haven, you'll see this smoke too, because it allows you to hide in this little cubby and makes it really awkward, right? So like you normally can't hide here because people from Garage are going to see you first, but because this smoke is so big and Omen's doing such a good job of selling that he's back site, they're not really even worried about him, right? So plus Ray's just, what is it, rocketed through window. So what is it? FPX did such a good job of creating pressure here that Viper was able to take advantage of her smoke and use it for what it's here for. It's for this cubby. That's the whole point of it, right? She knows that teams aren't going to be that great at clearing her out, and she's going to make it really awkward to get a kill on her. So she ends up getting like 3. And yeah, really well played from Sugetsu. Did a really good job. Yeah, again, as long as you get A control, your side holds are going to be extremely strong, and you see it in these 2 rounds. Now, so defense looks good, but now let's go ahead and talk about their offense. Okay, so we're going to round 15, and notice this Viper that I talked about before. Again, really good for pressuring short, pressuring long, good CT smoke, all that jazz, right? Smoke goes up, and you could see that DRX, they're stuffing that box. They're stuffing A lobby. They want to get A lobby control. Now, you saw Silver Recon go mid to feign some like mid control, but again, this wall's up, so they don't really know what's going on yet, right? This wall went up, they just went down. They had to use a Prowler to clear all this out. Now, you're going to see FPX go into like their C-pop. They're contacting up. They haven't seen anybody yet. Might have a read that or might be stacking A or something, but they decide to walk in. Now, this is the perfect world where this is where this comp is. This is exactly what you want, a free site. This comp should never lose a post plant ever. It should never. It has too much utility. But Viper lost her molly somewhere along the way. Where did she use these? I think she used these on the side hit, but I don't think we needed to use those there. But even regardless, even without the mollies, even without all the util, you should have so many smokes on this post plant to the point where it just stalls out the retake way too much. We have an Omen Paranoia, Satchel, Raise Paint Shells. We have a lot of potential stall here, right? Now, in the old VODs that I want to show you, the VODs from 2021 with the Viper on Haven, you see that Team Liquid had lineups for these types of things. They had a lineup where on site Viper would throw her smoke and it would land up on this thing, and they would do the retake, but for offense, right? Or if they went A, they would have a lineup for the lip of CT over on A, so that her and Omen could just keep cycling one ways. They could just keep cycling one ways. That's constantly one way off, constantly one way off. And then for spawn, Omen could actually, if you don't know this, you could stick a smoke in this area, in this wall, and it'll act as another one way. So your team has so many smokes to the point where no matter what the enemy uses for utility, there's always angles that you can hold for these one ways. Now, just because you don't have one way lineups, it doesn't mean that this comp is worthless, right? It's still really good. I still think it has really good potential at what stalling retakes and whatnot, right? So you see FPX, they got 4 on site, double back site, Chamber holding CT, Sova holding spawn, I think with Omen or 4 Omen or whatever, but Omen goes to checks flank, knows that a couple are there, flashes, tries to get out because he doesn't want to die, right? You know, he saw like a couple of them there. Now, this is where I think they mess up a little bit. So, Artist decides to TP back and help out Omen, right? Now, when you're playing on C, this isn't really the crossfire you want to play for. This isn't how you want to be playing anybody flanking, right? This isn't really how you want to do this. Artis is kind of taking a 1v1 on his own, and he just burned his TP, so he can't really get out. Omen can't help him because he just got stunned, and Sova is just now swinging, and I don't think I don't know, his vision might be blocked off from platform, but and there's some whiffing going on. So like you could see, had Artis just stayed back site, they still have they still have the smoke up, they still have people watching CT, they have a person watching garage, right? They could just swing off this Omen's contact, or I don't know, they could just play something better. When Artis TP'd, he could have gone into Cubby with them maybe, or maybe he can go up against this box, right? So like right here, this post plant just isn't, I don't know, it just didn't work, right? They didn't use any, weren't able to stall the retake at all. As a matter of fact, they got plowed, right? So right there, one example of the post plant failing, but let's go look at another example. All right, so taking us over to round 15, FPX is now ecoed. They just lost their first full buy round. They do the same wall. This is a really cool dart because it would have scanned anybody peeking short, and they could have spammed through the wall or something. But regardless, DRX decided to run it up mid, or contact up mid, I should say. And maybe they had a read or something, who knows, right? But again, this is exactly what you want with this comp. With this comp, with this much stall and smokes and whatnot, this is exactly what you want. Plus a Viper ulti that you're going to see as soon as Sugetsu gets his ult down. You're going to see that eventually he's going to pop the ulti, but you're also going to see that his Viper smoke doesn't really go anywhere. He ends up throwing it heaven, which isn't a bad idea, don't get me wrong. But again, I feel like they could have stalled out a little bit longer now. Unfortunately, Artis is going to whiff a shot here. Very uncharacteristic of him to miss, right? But he's a really good player regardless, right? Now, this Viper ulti is their win condition. They were stalling for such a long time that their game plan is working, right? They used raised paint shells. They used... Well, that's all they had, right? They had raised paint shells. They had a raised ulti they could invest into this round as well. I mean, this is a really important round, right? And the thing that you didn't notice was Viper still had a molly, right? So let's go back to here. Viper's playing out of her ult when in reality I don't think this is the play. I don't think this is the way to play it. You have to recognize that the spike is almost ready to explode, and you need to try and delay it for as long as possible. And Viper still has a molly, one singular molly. Now I know it's not a lot, but that's all it takes to win this round, right? Let's say, for example, she decided to use it CT, right? She uses it spawn, she can sit back spawn, and she could play time a little longer. Or what if she throws it on spike and then runs it spawn, and she decides to camp anyone trying to run out CT because they're running into her ulti, right? She could do something like that. Right? It doesn't seem like there's enough prep behind this, or comfortability behind this for it to work, right? And you're going to see, oh, it's just a molly Teets. They probably still could have diffused anyways. Well, they only needed to stall for 4 more seconds. You don't think the Viper molly throwing it on spike right there would have stalled enough time for them to buy time, right? For the Viper could have isolated CT. She knows that a lot of them are flanking, or should know maybe. But regardless, it's tough, right? Because I want to see this work. I want to see the comp work. I want to see these off-meta comps work, right? But regardless, I'm going to show you another round. All right, on to round 17. And in this round, you're actually going to see the comp shine. Now, that's a little Rimba lineup that I showed off one of my videos from Coach Sliggy. Check him out. But regardless, they decide, yo, let's try and go B, right? Now, this is how the comp works, right? This is what the comp is supposed to do, right? So they double satchel in, they omen smoke top side, and they blind this right side. This is a really popular way I've seen teams try and take B. They smoke off this left side. They're getting the spike down. They have so much utility. They have Raze ulti still from that last round. Double Viper molly, Sova shock, Sova ulti as soon as he plants, right? This is a really well planned and thought out round from FPX. Give this back to Sova. He has his ulti. He can go back, play whatever. This round theoretically should be unlosable, right? In this post plant, Viper also has a one-way on top of the spike, which you're going to see later, which is going to make the diffuser take a ton of damage as he's sitting there, trying to diffuse, right? And we also have a huge lurk coming from chamber, right? So again, this looks solid so far. This looks really solid coming from FPX so far. Now, Raze pops her ulti. She doesn't recognize the she doesn't understand. She doesn't recognize that the smoke is coming down. So Zipan makes a mistake, unlucky, pops his ulti, but that Raze rocket is such a huge part of this. It's such a big tool in this, right? You're trying to spam and try and get them off the spike, right? Everyone else is in such a good position. Omen's sitting here ready to spam. We have Sova with his ult, Viper with her mollies, right? All you got to do is hold for them. They're gonna run at you, right? They're gonna run at you. But also, I want to say that Buzz does do a really good job. He hits his shots. He hits some crazy shots this game. So smoke goes down. Raze gets one tapped. A really nice shot, even though we really get to see it. He one taps the Omen. Artis goes for the flank, right? Shoots Fade to the back. Buzz instant kill, instant trade. Again, really big kill from Buzz there. But now look, just watch. Look at how much utility that they have to stall this defuse. Just look. One way for the spike. Molly. Molly, Sova ulti, plus the smoke still. The smoke is still doing a ton of damage. You can't defuse. You can't. Viper tries to swing, loses the gunfight, unlucky. They needed 5 more seconds. These rounds, I'm telling you, are so much closer than you think. Like, yeah, they blew a 9-3 lead, but like, it sucks, man. I really wanted to see this comp work, and it's unlucky. It's not really unlucky. Again, some nice shots. Look at these from Buzz. Like, how do you beat this, right? Instant trade. Just damn. DRX played this well, but again, this comp can work. Just because FPX lost does not mean that this comp is bad. But now, I showed you a few rounds of defense, offense, but now I'm going to show you a couple rounds from those older VODs that I mentioned before. Okay, so yeah, these comps are something else. But this game can still show you different ways that you can use the Viper. Now, Team Liquid, what they decide to do is they don't use, well, they did use this A wall, but they also mix in the C wall. If they think that Chambers, like, this is before Chamber, right? So there's a lot of asterisks around this, right? But I'm still going to show off some different ways that you could use the Viper. Team Liquid, what they decided to do this round is they decided to throw this lurk wall up on C. What this does is it stops this person from jump spotting. You can't really peek from logs, right? The only spot that you can really hold from is from top site and from platform, right? But what is it? These guys don't really have anyone who can play top site either, right? So the only spot you can play is by platform. Now, again, this wall is before Chamber, right? So like maybe teams aren't using it now, or FPX didn't use it now because they thought maybe Chamber could just play in front of it or whatever. But I don't think that this is a bad idea that you could incorporate this into your game plan, right? We didn't see any of this from FPX. We didn't see any C wall. We just saw A constantly, time after time after time. It started getting predictable, right? By doing something different like this, you could sort of, shake DRX up, like, oh, they have a lurk wall towards C now, right? And then maybe you could use your Omen smokes to, deny information over here, right? But regardless, this lurk wall is really good. It creates a ton of pressure. When you keep putting it up, you could just walk up this at any time. And now because they just got this kill on the Killjoy, especially, it's a really big kill. You're gonna see that they get ready. They're gonna walk up C together. They don't have a duelist, so they kind of have to like just go in together, right? So they walk up. Asher has no idea. She's just jiggle peeking. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's like, maybe they're using this wall, right? Maybe I can get some spam off, right? But you're gonna see Sage is getting ready to wall back site. She just gets insta traded, and they end up losing the round. So when Team Liquid wins the round, FPX loses. But again, like you could use this wall. This wall's not a bad wall. I mean, it's different, right? It creates pressure in its own way, and maybe Chamber can play around it. But like instead of throwing the same A wall every round, it doesn't hurt to try and use this C wall. All right, let's go look at one more round. All right, for our second to last round, we're gonna look at the last round of this game, actually. So, as you can see, Team Liquid used their Killjoy ulti to try and take A, forcing FPX to play the retake. Now, yeah, you're not gonna retake against this comp. Now, even if they had like the regular breach, raise, fade, and all that jazz, I don't think you're ever retaking against something like this. Just watch. So for one, they have this big Viper ulti for sight, but even if they didn't have this, they still have a ton of utility to stall. They still have a Viper Molly, Killjoy Molly. They don't have Brim Mollies or stuff anymore, but like just watch. You're gonna see in a second. They just can't come out. It's impossible. You also have a Sage wall going over the top. I didn't even notice this at first. They have a Sage wall for short. She's peeking on top of it, looking over the Viper ulti, and she's peeking this one way, right? And she's also like fighting heaven and all that, right? Like how are you supposed to retake against this? Like I said, this is the comp that they want a free site. You just can't lose a post plant. You shouldn't be losing post plants with this comp, and it's so good at playing the post. So let's look at one more round where this comp shines. All right, so we're going to another round, or another game, I should say, against Fnatic. Now, Liquid, what they want to do is they want to fight for this lobby control, but they're getting Astra sucked. They're getting bombarded with utility, right? They can't take it, right? So they decide, yo, let's chill out. We got the Viper wall up. Maybe we can fight this in a second. Now, Fnatic, they're not going to be able to hold this very well. They skydog through the Astra smoke. Again, this wall makes it really awkward. Anyone who was fighting here, if you notice on the minimap, they were taking damage trying to fight through this wall. Like I mentioned, this wall is really good at holding this lobby control. If there was a breach here, if there was a raise here, this same exact thing would have happened. And I think that this comp truly is the counter to what we're seeing now with this heavy A lobby pressure. So there's some major legs behind Viper on Haven, and I think that if Chamber gets nerfed, or if like the breach gets bad on Haven for whatever reason, maybe they change him or they change Haven or whatever, I think that this comp could really shine, and I think we might see it come back eventually. FPX, they made it look bad because they choked a lead, but I don't think I don't know. I think people, they just see off meta picks and they just think, oh, that's bad, right? And they don't really think about what's going on. So pick Viper on Haven. I don't think she's that bad. So with that being said, hopefully you guys learned something from this video. I know I did, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.